science fiction on a screen so bright. Old classics and the new delights. The unapologetic geek will lead the way, with facts and fun to fill your day. Discussing every detail, every frame, from the eerie to the loud and the tame. Gig along with all that's great, those Sunday vibes you can't debate. Tug along with the Sunday crew, geeking out is what we do. Giggle on, it's gonna be great. Don't be late, let's celebrate.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Welcome to Tug Chats.
Yeah,
Right now, it is just me and Sarah.
that'd be Sarah and I. You got to do it proper grammar. Okay, this is a
I
proper
don't,
show.
I don't do proper grammar.
This is a proper grammar show. I mean, wait, today's not proper grammar day.
I mean, it can be, but
Oh
I'm
no,
not
never
very-
mind. Then I don't want to.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
No, yeah. Let's not focus on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
Thrash is supposed to be here. He obviously wasn't listening to the lyrics of the song that says "Don't be late."
I put him in it for a reason.
Oh, wait. Say the word and he arrives.
There's our Ponce. Ponce,
I just had to
welcome.
say his name. That's all I had.
Yeah, you didn't even have to say it 3 times. That's awesome.
You're muted, I think.
Am I muted?
Oh no, there you
Oh
are.
no, you just
There you
weren't
go.
talking. That's crazy.
No. I was letting you finish your sentence. Yeah, no, I kind of like was booting up my computer and it did that thing where updates are available, even though I didn't want them. So I'm like,
Oh yes.
and I'm like, come on, hurry up. But
yeah,
you
know
know,
that one.
I should have come on a few minutes early to allow for that, but well, you know me. So
It is. I mean, it's happened to all of us, right?
indeed.
Somebody didn't even send me the link this morning. Magic.
Yeah, I completely forgot to send Sarah the link, and when I showed up 20 minutes early, and she wasn't already waiting in the green room, I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong.
I know, because she even starts waiting the day before.
Exactly.
On my show, yeah. I got work to do last minute, like always.
So let me say hi to the people in the chat. We've got Michael DeCosimo. Hello. He was here around the same time I showed up.
Awesome.
Vim Vander Straighten is here as always. Always good to see you. And Just Carowin is here. Excellent,
Hey, Jess.
excellent. And of course, Danny Staten
I've
doing
heard
his
of him.
best George Takei impression.
That's his best. Okay. So much.
And let's see. Indy is here with an early prediction.
Not anymore.
Now he's going to not do it just to spite you. Yeah.
Second guess me, William.
So anyway, the topic of today is going to be anthology movies. But before we get started, I know that Thrash has been dying to talk to me about The Illustrated Man, which is the review I did last week. And I did mistakenly say last week that it was my first anthology movie, but that's obviously incorrect because I have covered heavy metal. But but anyway, I know Thrash is chomping at the bit, so I'm going to let him take the mic.
And that was not going to be my observation. Not even I am that petty. But I just have to say, you raised some absolutely phenomenal points, not just with The Illustrated Man and the works of Ray Bradbury, but as the anthology sub-genre as a whole. And I was like, let's respond. One of the things that what really makes an anthology movie, and there's some debate as to what the first anthology movie was. A lot of people say, I want to say it's a British film, Dark of Night.
That's what my research told me, yeah.
But there's actually one going back to the silent era called The Phantom Carriage or The Phantom Hearse, depending on which version you find. But the real debate is there was a German film which preceded it, and I believe it actually stars a young Peter Lorre. And it's a collection of short horror stories, but it lacks something which all anthology films absolutely not only must have, but rely upon, and that is some type of framing device. There has to be some way to bring them all together, no matter how thin. And granted, generally speaking, and Illustrated Man is no exception, oftentimes it's just a collection of short stories, and they actually have to jackhammer in some type of framing device. Brian Aldiss did that with some of his collection of short stories. Galaxies Like Grains of Sand is one of them, or Star Swarm, where it's either like an anthology in time where it shows the progression of Earth from World War III to the end of time, or just an intergalactic empire with various sectors. So a lot of people, I say it's actually the Phantom Carriage because it actually has a framing device. And in many cases, the framing device is more entertaining than the actual stories themselves, at least some of them. But the Illustrated Man has something that you almost never see, and that is the fact, and you talked about it as well, the framing device actually takes over as
it's most
as
of the
a
movie.
story.
Yeah.
And to the point, now, help me out here, because this is one thing I wanted to ask you, and I suppose I could have researched it, but it's your retrospect, so I should at least throw you some information. The actual framing story, was that actually written by Bradbury himself, or was that written by the screenplay writer?
No, the Illustrated Man was a story within the Illustrated Man, and it was basically what the framing story is. Yeah.
So it actually, well, I mean, I knew there was an Illustrated Man, but much like the actual short stories in it, they took tremendous liberties.
Yeah, like it wasn't in the book, the Illustrated Man. It wasn't a framing device within the book. I don't think. I don't remember. It's been like over a decade since I read it. I think it was just its own story, and they turned it into the framing device because it kind of did make sense because he had stories tattooed on his body. Or sorry, skin illustrations, not tattoos.
It certainly does. And one thing I had to pin a rose on your nose because you pointed out how the middle story, The Long Reigns, is head and shoulders above the other two. It is so particularly the Velt. I mean, I really think the Velt is a weak. I don't know if it lost something in translation, but I thought the Velt was like one of the weakest stories. I don't know how
boring.
Yeah, and
Sounds awesome.
And it's also, I suppose at the time when the idea of the decline of the role of the father in the household and precocious children were a thing, it may have been a little more topical, but they even made it even more untopical because they get their revenge with holograms. It just, I don't know. There were so many better stories in the Illustrated Man that I'm surprised they didn't go with them.
Yeah, I think they just picked the Velt and the end of, I can't remember the
days, last of days,
end of days, whatever. They just chose those two because they would be cheap and easy to make, which is not a good way to choose your stories. And honestly, the end of the world story is completely different. Like in the book, it's just like this. It's almost like a tone poem about like a couple facing the end of time. And it's kind of interesting that they're just like going about their day, just like doing their routine and settling down for the end of the world. And that's it. That's the whole story. And the movie version makes it this whole thing about like a council having met and they have to kill their own children. And it's not in the story at all.
And of course, and I'm not going to say spoiler it because anyone with a functioning cerebellum will figure out the twist ending. It's like, oops.
Yeah, you don't have to be Rod Serling to come up with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, really. But it's a pity because, as you guys know, Rod Steiger is my favorite actor of all time. So I really, really, really wanted to love this. And he certainly works with what he has available to him. But it's not a great anthology. It just isn't. I love your idea about making it like a Netflix thing.
Yeah, like an anthology series would be really cool. Like just have like each story have its own episode. I think that would really work, especially with the Illustrated Man.
And they did that with Ray Bradbury Theater. In fact, a lot of the stories contained in Illustrated Man were actually used in the Ray Bradbury Theater. But
yeah, I think there's even a version of the Velt that they did for Ray Bradbury Theater that is much better than the version you see in the movie. So
it would almost have to be.
Yeah.
Well, in the short story, the psychiatrist is a much more integral character. He's not just like a narrator. So I can certainly see how they would make that better. But anyway, thank you for indulging me because if you guys haven't seen his Illustrated Man retrospect, you guys got to. I think it's some of his best work. You guys got to go watch it now. Not now because we're talking.
Yeah, after this.
Later.
Okay, I want to say hi to some of the people who popped up in chat. Gary Carpenter showed up. Hello,
hey,
Gary.
Good to see you, Gary.
Nate is here. Kentucky Fried Movie. I'll confirm it was on my list. Mr. Wilkinson is here. I call him Mr. Wilkinson because he's not actually Kenneth.
Oh, well, I called him Kenneth because that's what I
I
could
still
spell.
call him Kenneth all the time in the chat.
He answers to Kenneth.
Awesome. Not Kenneth.
Oh yeah, rip Colin Clive. He's been dead for a while now. I think he died in the 40s.
Dude, for a minute I thought you said
Oh,
Rip
and hey,
as
Gary,
his-
how's it going?
I thought you were saying Rip as his name, not Rip as R.A.P. Oh boy, I was about to make some really bad jokes. Oh,
Ah, Kirst is here. Hello, Kirst.
oh yeah, Cyril's awesome.
Curse.
Zero.
Oh yeah.
No, actually, it is not my living room. It is my office. I have an office.
No, he's saying that you're running the chat. You're running the show.
Well, yes, I am running the show. This is my show.
Yes, so it's your living room.
But I don't live in this like weird Tron hellscape behind us.
I'm pretty sure you do. Actually, I would be disappointed if you didn't.
We've got a
disappoint me.
spicy punk rocker here.
Yeah, dude, that guy's awesome.
All right.
Check his channel out. He does challenges, eating challenges with like really hot things. You know, the Scoville scale of like, oh my gosh, why would you even? Yeah, that one.
We have a
Yeah,
Jedi in the midst.
Yeah, Walter, that's it. Amazon Woman on the Moon and Kentucky Fried Movie make a phenomenal double feature.
I
So,
would
yes, that
highly
definitely
recommend that.
counts.
Yeah. Yeah, 1937. Yeah, Clive, he died a long time ago. Like 90 years ago almost.
Wow, dude, 90 years ago? Wow, cool. Then
But,
maybe
you know,
the jokes would have been okay. All right.
He is the definitive Dr. Frankenstein. And yeah, Richard Chamberlain, who I originally only knew as the original Bourne from the Bourne Identity.
Who was born in 1937. Yes,
Yeah.
rest in peace to him as well. Well, back in the 80s, back in my time, he was actually the king of the miniseries because he did Shogun and
Right.
the Thornbirds. So that was like, oh, and a little trivia for you Land of the Lost fans. He was for some time romantically involved with Will.
Okay.
Trivia there. Oh, I like the teddy bear back. Ah,
Oh yes, the Quatermain movies. I love the Quatermain movies. They're so
by
good.
the way, you have me stuck on a Tron Hellscape crossover. I'm a virtual
Hey,
Hades.
BK.
BK.
I
is
think
on the
Danny's
way.
having issues with his buttons on his keyboard getting stuck.
I don't want to know why.
Oh, because he just threw up. That's interesting, Danny.
Ew.
Thanks for
Gross.
sharing.
Ew.
Ew.
I'm now grossed out. Yeah. Ew. I mean,
Ew.
So okay, with the Illustrated Man out of the way, because I pretty much said everything I have to say about it. I do think it's worth watching, especially just for that middle section. And I do like the Illustrated Man framing story. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's developed enough, but I do think it's interesting. But that's it. That's all I got to say. I'm going to go ahead and get started with other anthology movies.
Ooh.
And one that I particularly like, not necessarily because it's good, because the quality is all over the place. Like with most anthology movies, there's some hits and misses. But this one, because there's 26 different vignettes, the swings are wild. Like you'll have something really, really good and then something really, really terrible right after it. And that is The ABCs of Death, which is from like 2011. It's pretty recent for, you know, the kind of stuff we talk about on this channel. And the reason I like it is because basically the whole point was they took 26 different directors from basically from around the world and gave them $5,000 each and said, you have a letter, take this letter, come up with some word that starts with this letter and make a little vignette based on that. Go. And it has to have something to do with death because it's a horror anthology, or supposedly. And they didn't really give him any other directions than that. And so like you get these completely different interpretations of the assignment. Like some of them are really like horrific about like, you know, blood, guts, and gore and horrible things. And then you'll have the next one where it's some weird Japanese thing about some girl who loves to smell farts because why not? And then she dies by getting sucked into another girl's butt. It's that kind of movie. It's so random and so weird. And that's kind of why I love it, is because like you just don't know what to expect. And some of them are hard to watch, and some of them are just like, what the hell did I just see? You know? And some of them are just like you could tell they just kind of phoned it in. you know, like every once in a while. But I like that. I like the kind of like roulette aspect to it, that you just don't know exactly what's coming next. And because they don't tell you what the word is until the end of the vignette, sometimes you spend the whole time just trying to figure out what the word is. Like, what is this about that has to do with the letter Z, you know, like, so yeah, the ABCs of Death. I highly recommend it. But like I said, don't expect everything to be great, because it's not, but it is fun. So that's the first one I want to talk about. And
You know, I've never seen it. I'm kind of ashamed myself that I never checked it out. I think I was working mostly nights when it was on, so I didn't see a lot of like nighttime TV. But
yeah, I watched
remember
it just recently, like this last week, and I watched it on YouTube. I had to sign up for Magnolia Select, so you get like a free 1 week trial. But that's how I was able to get it. So if you're interested, that's how you do it.
They don't make you watch the Tom Cruise film, do they?
No.
Oh yeah, I will be punished.
Frogs. Yeah, no.
No punishment. I don't want punishment.
That was the best I could do on such short notice.
Hey, Tom McCluskey is here. Hello, Tom.
Tommy.
Tristan is here. Hello. I don't think he had a segment in it. No.
I remember Rick and Morty did an episode called The ABCs of Beth.
Oh, man.
Clever.
Okay, so I'm guessing you haven't seen it either, Sarah.
Nope. I didn't even heard of it. Okay. So if it was around like, what would you say, 2011?
Yeah.
No, I was out living my young life, doing my young things at the time, wherever that was. I don't remember. I was young then. Who knows?
There was kind of a resurgence in like horror anthologies around that time. There was like that and VHS and a couple of other things.
Well, wasn't that right after the Masters of Horror came out, and that caused the whole?
Oh yeah, I think Masters of Horror probably kicked it all off. Yeah.
You see, I'm not really big into horror movies at all, because I don't like the kill for kill's sake stuff, and the things are just too far-fetched. I just go, oh, that's bad writing. Anyways, but that's just me.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get some weird plot complications. It doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Why does everybody fall down? I mean, I've been chased by people. I've never fell down once. You know, if people can't find their keys, I got it in my hand. I'm running with it. I'm in. I'm good. Let's go.
Roger Ebert wrote an entire book about that, about really stupid cliches.
Oh, stupid cliches. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're being chased by a car, run down the middle of the road instead of just off into the woods.
I know, it's so crazy, right? I'm like, dude, there's like a sidewalk there, and like nobody can get there because there's other cars in the way. You can at least like start that way and go. It's crazy. I'm like, dude, you could try. No? Oh, yeah. You got run over, you don't know why? That is crazy.
Or people trying to like go to one side or the other, and then they do the squirrel thing because the car keeps moving with it.
Well, serpentine. It's all serpentine. Yeah. But if you just got away from it, it wouldn't happen. Like you could literally like go to the side, it would pass you, come like behind it. Even I mean, they could go in reverse suddenly. You could still like go the other way. It's crazy. Anyways,
yeah, Tristan, those are the only two I've seen. I know there's like 6 or 7 of them. Like there's too many VHS movies, but I did like the first 2. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, anyways, yeah. As far as like movies go with that, I can't think of any other than the Twilight Zone one, because I saw that. And I'll start with that. I love the Twilight Zone series, right? I love the series, right? And then when I saw the movie, I was like, well, this is quite questionable. Anyways, besides that, I did enjoy it overall. I just watched like a few months ago recently again, right? I guess that was recent for me. Yeah, a few months ago. Anyways, and you know what? Because when I really originally watched it, I was like a teenager, and I was just not. I was not feeling it, right? But watching it older now, I'm like, you know what? This isn't as bad as I remembered it. The graphics are terrible still, but that's besides the point. But we don't have to talk about them. But I really did like it overall, especially that I'm older. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like every single that's an example of where every single vignette is actually pretty good. Like I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch.
Well, I mean, the first part where they're talking takes way too long. I still think it does. I mean, it's not as bad as I remembered it, but it still takes way too long.
It freaked me out as a kid. You want to see something really scary? Like that actually did freak me out as a kid.
Well, see, but then I had already seen what you call it, Large Marge, so I was cured, so I'm good.
They really do establish the heck out of that opening sequence.
Yeah,
you almost forget. It's like Jeepers Creepers. You almost forget you're watching a horror movie. Yeah, it's like,
it's just two guys like telling jokes in a car, singing, Midnight Special. Shine a light on me.
Just a little side note. When I was a senior in high school, there was this kid. He was odd, very odd. More about that later. But the weird thing is, he was obsessed. He was obsessed with that whole segment. And every time he came into class, he would go da 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 da, and it never got old. And it never got old. And the weirdest thing is now he was gone from school for a while. I won't say why. Calls for hearsay, Your Honor. But we think maybe he needed to go away for a little while to rest. When he came back, literally, he'd been gone for like a couple of months. He came back, and as he's walking in the class, we get da 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 da. And I'm like, oh dear God! Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, and I'll get like in Beavis and Butthead, where on graduation day, they're like, and the homeroom teacher's like, doesn't it ever get old to you? And then it's like, and that's what this kid reminded me of, and it's a pity too, because unlike Beavis and Butthead, this kid was really, really smart. I think he was a little too smart.
Yes.
But I felt compelled to share that anecdote. And you're right. I can't agree with you more. The Twilight Zone is one of those few movies where all the vignettes stand up. There's not because that's one thing about anthologies that I always find so funny. They even make a joke about it in Family Guy. Because now here's a story that we don't like quite as much as the other two. So we're gonna sneak it in here. But yeah, Twilight Zone, they all work. And the fact that they had some pretty big shoes to fill, not all of them, but the main stories are remakes of earlier stories.
Yeah.
So you're
some of the best episodes too. Like
you're setting yourself up. And again, they do standalone. The Vic Morrow one, and we all know the story behind that. So
yeah.
But the Vic Morrow one is not actually based on a classic. And I think it really does stand up on its own. The scene where the Nazi officers are making a game out of shooting him down, that's some solid drama there. Yeah. And that could have come off so hokey, and it didn't. So, yeah, I love the Twilight Zone movie.
And Spielberg actually did direct one of the vignettes in the Twilight Zone movie. It was the Kick the Can,
I love that episode itself as a kid. Like, they did that one really good. And when they redid it as a kid, I didn't like it at all. So I'm like, no, it's not the same. But I'm an adult now. I went, I can appreciate it for its own merits and how they changed a little bit. But it was really good still.
Well, it's kind of like the Nightmare on 10 or at 10,000 feet or however many feet it is.
That was just terrible.
Nah, I love them both.
It's in a good way terrible. Don't get me wrong.
The William Shatner one is fun because it has that kind of like Shatner-esque, a little bit corny, a little bit, and like the monster looks like a guy in an igloo or an Eskimo outfit or something, but it's still good and it's still creepy. Whereas the movie version is a lot more like dramatic 80s, a lot of more intense lighting. And John Lithgow, he had big shoes to fill. He had
that's pretty much my point there. Yeah. I mean, anyways, but the rest of it was okay. I mean, I didn't mind that, but I don't know him. Every time I see him now, I just think of him talking to Bigfoot. I'm just like, oh no,
But yes, Carowin, the setup for the joke makes it all worth it. In Third Rock from the Sun.
Thank you, Kerwin. That is, in my opinion, one of the funniest moments in TV history.
It is.
Okay, so when that show came out, I was an 8th grader and I had zero interest in it. And now that I want to go back and watch them, I can't find them anywhere.
Oh, that's a shame. There's some really good stuff in that show. I like it.
Well, I had watched it a few times as a kid, and the ones I did watch were good. It's just it wasn't my thing at the time. But 8th grade, I was gonna go to a Star Trek convention. I was more impressed by that. Star Trek, everybody, if you didn't know, it's my thing.
I've heard.
Really?
Anyways, I Star Trek all day long. I'll compare you to every episode of Star Trek. Just watch.
The funny thing about Kick the Can, and don't hate me, Sarah, I think I like the reboot a little bit better because it actually extrapolates on what the dynamics would be. But one thing I have to mention, and I'm sure you folks all already know this, but one of the reasons why we saw stories like that and others, as we all know, Serling suffered from an almost debilitating sense of nostalgia. he wanted to go back to his idyllic childhood so much he became preoccupied with it, particularly as he got more on in years. Probably because he never liked the post-war world for actually pick a reason.
Right.
But that's why you see things like Kick the Can and the Gay Yun one where he goes on the long walk down the short alleyway, all these, or the two kids who swim down to the bottom of the pool and come up in
dude,
Huckleberry Finland.
I love that one. That was awesome.
Well, because they were made with love, because that's actually all he thought about was going back in time.
Yeah.
And going
well,
back to
for like Kick the Can stuff, right? I originally saw that episode when I was like a little kid, right? Mm-hmm. And then when I got a little bit older, somebody in the neighborhood's like, "Hey guys, I learned how to play Kick the Can because my mom and dad told me." Whatever. Anyway, something like that. Anyway, so we went out late at night and we played Kick the Can. And when I was playing it, suddenly that episode came back to me, right? And I was like, dude, I gotta remember to play this when I'm old, just in case I can't go young again. So that'll be my thing I'll do. I'll probably film it because YouTube will still be around by then, I'm sure.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Well,
there will always be VCRs.
Well, yeah, there will be. In my mind, I see them all the time.
IBM is an unfair monopoly. Nobody will ever compete. Yeah.
Oh, what's IBM? IBM? Well, anyway.
There's always something that people think will never go away, and it always does.
That's crazy. Anyway, so kick the can, everybody. Do that.
Kicking the can.
Don't kick the bucket, kick the can. Two separate things.
The rabbit kicked the bucket. The rabbit kicked the bucket. Sorry. Oh, me up?
Yeah, and now it is your turn. Although I'm pretty sure Twilight Zone must have been on all three of our lists. Easy.
Yeah, it's just a great movie overall. Plus, TV series.
Hey, Tab.
Hey, Tab. What's going on, my brother?
And also, if I didn't say it before, hi, Snarky. Thanks for the boopy, Snarky.
Yeah.
Hello, Snark. I had to change my order around a little bit. Actually, all kidding aside, this one was what I was going to open with because for two reasons. One, it's one of my favorites. And two, very, very few people know of it. And it is, I want to say, from 1968, but it's Torture Garden with Burgess Meredith as the impresario. And this one's great. Basically, what happens is some people go to a carnival. They go in to attend to get their fortunes told. A very creepy Burgess Meredith is there and tells them their futures. And they all end horribly. And one of the great things about it is, again, I froze. Great, right in mid-sentence.
You had 28 minutes.
I've got a new phone here, so I'm going to screenshot that for you. So I can do it right. Okay.
Well, I'll get through this one, and then I'll pop out and come back on. But it's again, all three of the stories are of equal quality. And Burgess Meredith is great as the sort of, again, the framing villain. There's a little twist at the end. Personal favorite, because there's so much speculation about his demise. The last one is about Edgar Allan Poe,
right?
And how he mysteriously continues to write even though he's dead. And it's funny because I actually remember stories similar to that from when I was a kid, and I actually became obsessed with the fact that somehow Poe not only did not die at the time, but is somehow even still alive. I was a kid. What do you want from me? But I've always taken, when I was like 13 years old, they took us on a school trip to Boston. And one of the things we did while I was up there was this local acting troupe did a play on the works of Edgar Allan Poe. And since then, I became like fascinated by him. I know a lot of people haven't seen this one. Only the true fans of British anthologies or late night TV are familiar with it. But Torture Garden is possibly one of my favorites.
I just looked it up because I've never even heard of it until now, and it's got a lot of like Hammer regulars involved in it. Even though it's not really a Hammer movie, but it looks great. And yeah, I was also obsessed with Poe when I was younger, specifically his death. I was just fascinated by the mystery of it. He basically died face down in a gutter in the middle of Baltimore, and nobody really knew why. And I read whole books about it, trying to figure out the murder mystery, because I was like, I was young and I thought I could figure this out. The truth is he probably just died of alcohol poisoning, but it's still interesting.
Oh. But it was weird. Like he wasn't even wearing his own clothes when they found him.
There's a lot of weird details.
Yeah.
So much.
I remember going down the rabbit hole with that, and I was like, okay, I got to stop this because it just keeps getting weirder. And then there's no answers, and I'm like, okay, I need to go kick the can or something. So I wouldn't do
but
that.
it's very fitting for Poe. Like you can drive yourself insane trying to figure out something macabre. It's Poe, you know.
Were the man still alive, I think he'd be fascinated by the fact that people think there are all these conspiracies about his death.
Yeah,
you know, I
think he choked on a chicken bone and fell in the gutter. I don't know. Did anybody check?
And speaking of Poe, in addition to Two Evil Eyes, there was that show that came out just last year or maybe the year before, The Fall of the House of Usher, which was, it was basically an anthology Netflix series loosely based on all the works of Poe, and it's actually really good. That's all.
I actually haven't seen it, but I will check it out. I don't know how I missed it, but I will.
As a kid, the first time I ever heard of Edgar Allan Poe was an episode of The Simpsons horror or Halloween special. Bart was reading Quote the Raven Nevermore or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, that was awesome!" And then I was like, "I want to hear that again, right?" And my mom's like, "Well, go find Edgar Allan Poe." I was like, "Oh, you just said book. Never mind. I don't want to. I'm good."
Have you ever seen the Christopher Walken dramatic reading of The Raven? It's great. You should watch it.
I have not seen that in years. But I also saw him reading Hansel and Gretel. I have that on my channel. As a matter of fact, it's private because I don't want to get in trouble anymore. But it's there. And I'm telling you, man, he can just like read me anything. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. That's all. Use more.
Emily's usually working when I'm doing my streams, so she rarely ever shows up here. But she usually shows up at Thrash's streams. A lot of the time she hangs out in the background and doesn't comment much. She just like pops out like a little jump scare. Like I've been listening the whole time, by the way.
Dude, and then up there on Facebook, she's always posting something funny. It's ridiculously awesome.
Yeah.
She's
great.
Yeah. If you don't Facebook, you should just follow her because it's funny. I'm gonna be real with you. I found some funny things there. I'm positive back. That's how I say Christmas.
But yeah, like I said, she's usually working when I'm doing my streams, so she doesn't show up here very often.
No, how dare she have life outside YouTube?
Yeah.
Emily, I don't know.
I'm actually kind of amazed I'm able to get so many people here at like the middle of the day on Sundays. Like I figure most people would be busy doing something.
Most people in my neighborhood are still sleeping.
Yeah.
I got up at 7, ready for that link.
But no, it works out. I'm able to like keep rotating out the people who are on my panel.
Oh yeah, because that gives everybody time to do real life things. Because we gotta do them sometimes. It's true. Yeah. No, I mean I'm ripping on Emily for that, but I mean I do too. Sorry, Emily.
So, unfortunately, even though I could talk about Edgar Allan Poe all day, I have not seen Torture Garden. Like I said, I'd never even heard of it, so I don't really have anything to add.
All right, well, then
I believe it's on YouTube, so please feel free to check it out. But
okay, I've got the window open. I'll just leave it open to remind me. Yeah.
All right, then send me the link later, Tug. I'm gonna watch because I gotta know what's happening, so we can discuss it later. I swear.
If I had to pick, the bookend stories are the best, but the one in the middle really does stand up. It's about sort of like the whole Hollywood subculture thing, which I think is even more applicable today than it was 50 years ago. So,
oh, thanks, Danny. You are always here. That is true. You're either in the chat or you're on the panel.
Dan, we love him.
Oh, hey, Mike Silva.
Hey, Mike.
Pop in.
I said hi to Mike a minute ago.
I missed it. Okay, so now it's my turn again. Let me look at my list.
That was it. The first one movies went. That was my only one I could come up with.
Comedy? Do I want to do sci-fi or do I want to do horror?
Comedy. Who said that?
Let's do comedy. Okay.
All right.
So do I want to do... All right, I'll go with the Mel Brooks one. History of the World Part 1.
Oh, I love that. Comedy, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go with the second one.
I mean, it's Mel Brooks. What more can I say? And,
Mel Brooks.
I've got so many like random lines from that I use in my day-to-day life. Just like it's good to be the king.
Oh yeah.
Half the people don't even realize what I'm saying. I'm like, what does that have to do with what's going on right now?
You're like, it just means I'm awesome. I'm sorry, you're not. The big joint, that was awesome.
Yeah. A whole field full of
yeah. History of the World 1 and 2, so good.
The first artist, there was the first art critic.
Yeah. It's like one of the lines I really like from The Life of Brian was "Blessed are the cheesemakers." I say that all the time in the most random places, and people go, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Blessed are the cheesemakers,
right?
Your Majesty, you look like the piss boy, and you look like a bucket of shit. Boom. I was crying. When I was like, I saw that when I was like 13 years old, and stuff like that really got to me. I was crying. I was laughing so hard.
What are you talking about? I love the poor. Pull.
So funny that aired on network TV for the first time the day before my we did an orientation for when I was in 8th grade. I was going into 9th grade, which was the high school building, and we had to do an orientation. It had been on the night before, and somehow my best friend was in the same orientation group I was, and we quoted that movie the entire time we were supposed to be looking at the school. And we couldn't stop quoting it. It was that quotable.
Nice.
And apparently Hulu did like a TV show version that was the History of the World Part 2 with Mel Brooks, obviously, but like I never saw it because it doesn't look very good.
Well, I mean, I saw the actual movie, the History of the World Part 2 when that came out, but anything other than that, I have not seen. I actually had Mel Brooks in it. It was crazy. It was real. It was the Part 2. Anyways, my point is Mel Brooks is awesome.
Mel Brooks is
Spaceballs.
Which I've covered on this channel.
I love Spaceballs. I mean,
I bet you do.
Yeah, you can pop me on some Perrier. Get rid of that stank.
That was my son's introduction to Mel Brooks. He still loves Spaceballs to this day.
Oh, well, one of my favorite ones of Mel Brooks is, the one where they do the play. What's his name? Zero's in it.
The Producers.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah,
one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, let me be real. I don't really care for the remake really that much, but I do
the original's
like
great.
Yeah, I do like the part where the pigeons are singing because I'm like, of course, that's me. Witch's Bucket wasn't in that movie, but even better. But anyways, my point is the pigeons sang, and that was cute.
They lost me when I found out they didn't have LSD, and not the drug, the actual actor.
Right.
Oh yeah.
When they eliminated Dick Shawn's character, I'm like, and I'm out. Yeah, I can't do this.
Hi, Golden Rage of TV.
Oh,
hey, brother. I love that photo of you with Bather Bowman, by the way. That is treasure.
Yeah, Pons has his frame down. He's going to get it tattooed on his arms. Crazy. He showed me the patterns. It's awesome. It's really cool.
So maybe one of these days we will do a show dedicated specifically to Mel Brooks movies. But
yeah, let's do that. I'm already getting teary-eyed thinking about how awesome that would be.
And I love his sleeper hits, so I could be the go-to. Count on me for the steal.
I like Blazing Saddles too.
That was not a sleeper hit. I think that's his biggest hit.
Yep, yeah, that is his most successful movie. Yep.
Yeah, but anyways, I like Sausages now a lot. So.
And it started out as a joke by Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was making a joke about how there's no blacks in westerns, and next thing you know,
there was Bart. Dude, that TV show that they were going to do was kind of funny too. So like, well, I don't know why they didn't do that, but whatever.
And the joke by Richard Pryor also started Superman 3, so you know.
Yeah, we are full circle.
Sure. We're not talking about what he gave. We're talking about what he took.
Well, I think
because I'm a douche.
Indy says Sleeper was Woody Allen, Bob.
Oh yeah. Sleeper hits, not sleeper.
Hey, Copwatch, Tapatios.
Top 2 is
Good to see you
awesome.
again. Yep, I met him.
I know you did. You were blessed to be on the panel to meet the amazing.
This is our blessed.
Mm-hmm. I know. I was blessed to have him up on there too. I was. I've only been in his chat going, "Oh, you're awesome." He's only been in my chat going, "Oh, you're awesome," and I'm like, "Oh yeah." Then we like meet up on the panel. We're like, "Oh yeah, you're definitely awesome." And it was awesome. Did I mention it was awesome?
The key word here is awesome.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
So it was. Yeah, it was bodacious.
Excellent.
Excellent. Take them to the Iron Maiden.
Rad.
Excellent.
Radical, man.
I was recently watching Bill and Ted the other day. Yeah. I hadn't seen it since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, I was like, I don't want to learn about history. Anyway, so then I was an adult and I went, what was wrong with me back then?
When I saw the sequel,
crates and food.
When I saw the sequel, all I could think of is how many people watching Bill and Ted have seen The Seventh Seal. Because I'm watching, I'm dying, and it hits. You've sank my Betty ship, and I'm dying, and I'm like, wait, why is everyone else laughing? Who else? Raise your hand if you've seen a Bergman film. If you've heard of Bergman,
just sneaking in some culture,
Culture. That's not me. I won't touch that.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of it. People say that about me too. They go, if they catch my reference, I'm being clever. If they don't catch my reference, I'm being irreverent. Exactly. Either way, it works. Well, I think so.
Now, I talked about it when I did my review of Bill and Ted, that like it's actually a very sophisticated movie about two idiots doing idiotic things.
Isn't that like almost every movie?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Any movie I would make would be like that too.
Bengt Ekerot is the one who played Death in The Seventh Seal. Okay. No idea.
Wow. leave it to Indy to like yank.
I'm pretty sure Indy is AI. Uh-huh.
Yeah. You mean AM? Ooh.
No.
Oh, and by the way, Indy, you didn't weigh in. Which of the two films is the first anthology, the German or the Swedish?
Oh, he's folding his arms.
Crash is like, I have you now.
We'll wait. Well, it's a matter of opinion, but he will settle the bet. I promise you. I promise. And I will defer to his decision.
There yeah, so you can't get it wrong. Awesome. He can just go, yes.
Okay, well, while Indy processes that question, Sarah, do you have another anthology movie that you can think of?
Not well, because see, when I was like going through my first off, okay, it's been a while since I heard the word anthology, and I had to make sure I had it right. So I Googled it. Oh yeah, I did that right, and I made sure that okay, I'm 100% right. Thank God. And then I couldn't think of any movies other than that. Then you just said History of the World, and I'm like, okay, so there's other ones out there I don't know, but I watched a lot of series like that. So that's what I can tell. But I can't think of another movie off the top of my head right now. But I could talk about Night Gallery.
Night Gallery is a great show. Yeah.
Yeah. I once I learned about Night Gallery, because I loved Twilight Zone. I've seen every episode of the original Twilight Zone that I can. It's out. I've seen it, right? Probably more than once. And I'm going to tell you, when I learned about Night Gallery, I was like, you kept this from me, Mom. I got that look, the beat. Oh, yeah. I'm like, ooh, the rage. And then I went and watched it, and I was like, don't you ever keep things like this from me again, Anyway, so I loved it, man. It was awesome. I was like, well, this is like Twilight Zone 2.0. It's awesome. It's great. It's amazing. I loved every minute of it, right? I really do love those mysterious ones like that. Like, another one I liked was Alfred Hitchcock, right? I loved watching him as a kid, too, because, like, everything is always different, right? And I remember as a kid, I don't remember the title of it, but there was something about Lipstick and Stalking Murders or something like that. And I remember it as a kid, so I went and looked through all those series one time just to find that episode. I still don't remember what it's called, but I did find it. Okay. So I was like, okay, cool. I didn't misremember that. So that was pretty awesome.
Is that the one with the nurse?
Hello,
is that the one?
Nurse.
Well, I don't actually. You know what? If you have to worry about giving away an Alfred Hitchcock ending on this show,
yeah.
But there's one where a woman is like preparing. She hears that there's a killer out there, but is also waiting for an in-house nurse to show up. And the twist ending is when the nurse shows up, it's actually the killer in drag. The killer had killed the nurse and took her place, which is actually the plot twist in Terror from the Year 5000 too, by the way. So am I closer? Am I way off the mark here?
Way off. I think this one had like a leg of lamb in it too, or something, or maybe that's just one I saw next to it or something. Anyways, but like I remember one of them, they had this really nice roast, and she beat her husband with it, and I don't know, he was gone anyways. Then everybody ate the evidence. It was awesome. I was like, now
that's
I know.
A good one too.
I need to learn how to cook so I can murder.
Just murder them with DoorDash. Do like Ruth Buzzy and hit them with the bag until they're dead.
Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah. That's too much of a paper trail. That won't work.
You don't have to use plastic bags. Oh.
Did you know that you could like put your fingers in plastic? And go, it's crazy. Like
my experience with Night Gallery was very similar to yours in that, like, I remember loving The Twilight Zone. It was like one of my is one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Go-to shows, yeah. Like, I don't have anything to watch. I'm going to watch Twilight Zone.
And yeah, I used to also watch Alfred Hitchcock Presents a lot. I was big into the suspense. I loved Alfred Hitchcock from a very young age. And then
they did it right.
I was like 12 before anybody told me about Night Gallery. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Why?
I was in my 20s.
Why did I not know about this? This is so great.
Anyways, I think it was TV Land or something like that, right? Or Me TV or something. When I had cable or whatever, like, and anyways, we're going to show all these wonderful other shows. And I'm like, what is this? I'm watching this. Hey, Mom, do you know blah, blah, blah? Oh, in my 20s,
the fun thing about Night Gallery is that the quality was wildly different. Some of them were like classic. Some of them they do a rendition of the thing on the steps. I'm sorry, Indy, if I got it wrong, but it's the H.P. Lovecraft short story, and it is so hokey that even by H.P. Lovecraft adaptation standards, because for some reason, anytime people want to adapt H.P. Lovecraft, they have to go camp because they can't get it right, so they go, we'll make a farce. But this was so farcical. But then you have the Sin Eater with Richard Thomas, which I think stands up on its own. That's an absolutely amazing episode. But they go wildly. Oh, Lamb to the Slaughter. Thank you, Indy. Oh, and the question, Indy, by the way, is I referenced 2 silent era anthology horror movies. Do you count Phantom Hearse as the first because of its use of framing device, or the collection of short stories from Germany, which has no framing device, even though because it predates the Phantom Hearse? He missed the question. It was only sporting to give it back to him.
Right. I understand. But yeah, there was a lot of great anthology TV series from back in the 50s and 60s. You had Night Gallery, you had Out There, you had The Outer Limits, Twilight.
Oh yeah, the Outer Limits too. Outer Limits is one of those things that it's not been as easy for me to find to watch. Right? They had all those remake ones, and I'm like, I don't want to watch that. That's terrible. My eyes bleed a lot. I don't want that. No. Anyway, so I watched the original ones, right? And I watched the original ones. I'm like, oh man, there's great storylines. I mean, most of them, anyways. And I mean, sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, it must have been another time. Let it go. But my point is, those were some good shows. I have a lot of good memories watching them with my parents or on my own. And, it was something that I could go and watch that was a little bit like more adult. But my parents would be like, "Yeah, no, go watch that. It's way better for you than whatever that was." And I just really enjoyed it. I mean, wow. There's some people out there that have really good writing skills, and I'm like, I appreciate that. Then there's other people out there you're like, why? Movie encountered them. I mean, Tug was so upset about people's time machine stuff or whatever, time travel. He's like, I'm going to write a book. I mean, there you go. I'll just make a joke. And he's like, I'm going to write a book. I'm serious about this.
Yeah, when I get upset, I write an entire novel. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for the novel to come out on Sarah. He's like, I'm writing it now. Chapter 1. It'd be great. Oh, wait, no, you said you wrote it when you're upset. Never mind.
I want to say hi to John Doe. He's I'm assuming he's in Thrash's chat. And,
the thing is about John Doe is every time I see him, I want to go, who is he really?
And straight up and forward is somebody you know, Sarah?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good to see you. Yeah, I should probably see. Look, I got another phone up and running, sort of. I was almost ready. In between this and that, I've been getting my stuff done. But yeah, my other phone, as you know, was taped together, right? But this barely works anymore. See, okay, came apart. Anyway, so yeah, I gotta remember I have a phone that works now, and I can use it to type. It's crazy.
So we've caught an objectivist. And yeah, Vim, I remember seeing the Tales from the Dark Side movie, but I couldn't tell you a dang thing about it. Like, I don't remember it at all. I just know that I saw it. It's one of those movies, I guess.
What? Sorry, what'd you say?
We're talking about the Tales from the Dark Side movie, which I know I saw, but I don't remember.
You know, another good series. I didn't really appreciate it as much as I did when I was a kid. I mean, I liked it a lot then, but as an adult, I like it more as like the Crypt Keeper, right? Like that stuff.
Oh yeah, Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. I never was really a fan of R.L. Stine, any of that, but I watched them here and there, and I was like, but I see other things like like that, and I'm like, yeah.
John Doe, the topic is anthology movies. Yeah, movies that have like
shows.
Little stories within them. And yeah, Sarah's brought in a bunch of TV shows as well.
Oops.
That's fine. I don't mind.
I could really do my homework a little bit better. Yeah.
This show is pretty loosey-goosey. It's okay.
I know, you have me on it. I know.
And as we've discussed, the beauty of TV is you're not limited to 105 minutes to cram your stories in. You could do a story a week forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's sort of good and sort of bad. Nice.
By the way, were you completed? By the way, Sarah, am I up or I always want to
go for it.
I never want to step on your toes, my dear. But
my toes
I gotta tell you,
are like I'm cross-legged, so you're fine. My toes are not in the way.
I had the exact opposite experience of you guys with the Night Gallery because when I was a kid, the Night Gallery was actually on, like it was actually being, like it was in its series run. And if I got to stay up late either because I couldn't sleep or because if I was up and around, it was on TV. So I actually started catching it then. It wasn't until I want to say I was in middle school they started showing the old Twilight Zone episodes again in my area. And I go, oh my God, that's the guy from Night Gallery. So I had I had literally a cart before the horse experience. But while we're on the subject, I'm actually going, because you were focusing mostly on the Night Gallery TV series. I'm going to talk, because it was actually on my list, I'm going to talk about the Night Gallery feature film, which actually you could say was the pilot.
Basically, yeah.
In fact, I will go so far as to say that. But again, talk about this movie had everything. First of all, it had an amazing framing device. You had Rod Serling. Rod Serling could read my own obituary, and I'd be fascinated. I'd come back from the dead to listen to him read it. Also, I love the idea about a cursed art museum, and the impresario. That's the word of the day, by the way, guys. Walks up to a painting, and each painting had its own story, and they're all tragic because. Most art, I studied art when I was in college. Most art actually is tragic. Very little art comes from nice stories. Usually it's tragedy. The Mona Lisa, she's sitting to have a portrait done with a post-apocalyptic view in the background. But because she's sitting there smiling very coyly, people don't pick up on that. But yes, art is, of course, comes from
I just thought he couldn't paint the background right. There you go. Well, I know I can. Art.
And again, it's one of those rarities where each of the stories is of equal quality. I mean, Cemetery, the chemistry between Ossie Davis and Roddy McDowall is palpable. I absolutely love that story in a tragic kind of way because it's very tragic. But I mean, it's an amazing story, and I love the premise behind it because, of course, they're in an art gallery, and the premise of the horror of the story is the painting on the wall. So it actually is very synchronistic. Eyes is one of the greatest tragic stories, I think, in American literature. And I would have thought that even if it didn't have Tom Bosley in a very, very sad role, because Mr. Cunningham.
Father Dowling.
Yeah, has to give up his sight to cover a gambling debt. Like,
what?
and Joan Crawford is what Joan Crawford does best. She is a monster. She is an absolute total monster, and yet you still manage to feel sorry for her at the end. And
no, that's good writing.
It is, and Escape Route is just classic. It really is. So again, it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest anthologies of all time, and a fitting pilot for a phenomenal series, which should have gone longer.
Yeah. Well,
Karen Black, that's Trilogy of Terror, right?
Not not where she's a Nightmare Warrior.
Oh, okay. So that's
that must be a different. I'm actually not familiar with the Nightmare Warrior, unless you're talking Freddy Krueger. And Karen Black is not Freddy Krueger. That was Robert Englund.
True.
So
Robert Englund is a national treasure, as we know. I may not be into horror, but anything he's in, I'm gonna watch. Okay, even like those movies that he's in, those horror ones. I mean, I haven't seen them all at all. Maybe I won't ever, but I did see the first one, right? And I was just like, yeah, well, he's just awesome. And then there's V. Oh man, I love him in V. Oh yeah,
he had two. He had two horror anthology series. He had Freddy's Nightmares, and then he had was it called Nightmare Cafe, which only lasted about 4 episodes. But I thought Nightmare Cafe was sort of like the X-Files before the X-Files. And yes, Tom, he did do V. His first acting credit, to my knowledge, was Soap. He plays a cult member in Soap.
One of my favorite roles that he did was in Babylon 5. I love that one in Babylon 5 that he did. I mean, I think it's in the first season. I can't remember what it's called, but Garibaldi finds out that there's a missing level like the whole time. Crazy. Anyways, and he goes there, and yeah, Robert Englund's the crazy man that's got some alien that eats people there, and I'm like, whoa. It's awesome. You know, he's all spouting crazy stuff, and I'm like, well, did they even write him anything, or they just told him to talk? I don't know. But it was awesome. Babylon 5, everyone. It's my other Star Trek.
Well, Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine, they had a lot of the same writers, right? Like,
oh yeah, a lot of people that worked on Star Trek in general worked on Babylon 5, and that's why Babylon 5 turned out to be so good. I think even today, the awesome CGI at the time still looks better than things I see today. Even
right.
You know, I could get behind the texture of the ship or the station looks like that. I can't get behind a wolf looking like that. No. Yeah, I see some really terrible things, and they're like, "This is really good." I'm like, "Oh, but did you see that?"
Seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I know, and it's been awful. The practical effects, do more of that. Yeah.
Attack ships burning of
shoulder ride.
Yeah, when there's too much detail that you don't even see in real life, there's a problem. It doesn't look right, you know. You gotta find the happy medium.
The Hitchhiker, yes, Ben, I loved The Hitchhiker. Oh, and by the way, what do you think the Hitchhiker's actual story was? A lot of people said, oh, he's an escaped con or this or that. I always thought he's actually one of the dead, and he's just another lost soul on the highway, trying to distract himself with stories of other lost souls. But the debate goes on. But yeah, OD Feeling, I think, is one of the best shows, like, from that whole era, by the way. A sort of post-apocalyptic, urban, dark comedy drama with an anti-drug message starring Gene Simmons. I mean, how could, among others...
Don't do crack.
Powder to the people.
When you get busted in a movie theater, you gotta do these commercials about crack. It's like, oh no.
And Sandra Bernhard in drag, and they don't even talk about the fact she's in drag. She just plays a black dude. You know what I'm saying?
Why not?
Why not? Exactly. Why not? Oh, Spooky. Oh my God, Spooky, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yes, it's very spooky that Spooky's here. Spooky.
On top of old Spooky.
I think that's like the third Spooky I know. I know like a lot. One of them left the internet, the other one, and then there's this one.
They're plug in there somewhere. These are the Spookies I know.
Now you're just some spooky that I used to know.
Oh, anyways, I got pseudo credits coming up. You give me ideas.
Okay, so as not to step on your toes, Thrash, are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
I defer my time.
So I guess this should bring up at least one sci-fi anthology. I've got a couple on my list, but I'm gonna go. It's weird to say recent for a 25-year-old movie, but I'm gonna go with recent for the Animatrix. Basically the same idea as ABCs of Death. They just gave like a certain number of people, like, you know, the Matrix, make a short animated story about the Matrix.
I watched a lot of that impaired, so I don't remember it.
And like the thing, it was early 2000s, and that's before the MCU. The big thing Hollywood was trying to do was MMI, which was multimedia integration, where they were trying to take things like the Matrix and make tie-in video games, books, and other things and put them all in the same universe, and they were all interconnected and you had to watch it all. It was kind of like the MCU before the MCU existed. And the Matrix is one of the few that almost got there. It almost did it perfectly. It had the Animatrix. It had a couple of video games that actually did tie into the movies and so on.
I played those games.
But the Animatrix was really, really cool. It had kind of an Eon Flux feel for us 90s kids.
Dude, we had that on our modded Xbox, and that's when we watched. Like I said, I was pretty impaired when I watched it a lot. Anyways,
so it's awesome. Honestly, the Animatrix is a better Eon Flux movie than the actual Eon Flux movie.
Hashtag facts.
And I like how each story kind of has its own feel. Like you've got this 2-part series that's just like a history of the future, you know, letting you know what happens between now and the point that the machines take over, which I thought was awesome. And like the kind of backstory everybody who watches the Matrix wants, you know. And it still managed to work. It still managed to be interesting. It didn't like destroy any of the mystique, which I thought was really cool. And then you also had one where it's just like some kid in a high school who's like struggling with life and he finds the Matrix and, you know, stuff like, I mean, like every single story was a little bit different. There were a couple of really not so great ones. Like there's one where some guy keeps running until his legs fall off or something. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. I remember I watched that one back a lot. I'm like, why did it? Oh, anyway, never mind. But that's the moral of the story is overall pretty good. You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What
so I kind of wish more IPs did that kind of thing, because I thought the Animatrix was really clever and really artistically interesting. Like I think they had a lot of fun with that one. So.
And yes, the future legend. I mean, that whole it's amazing. I little things actually jump out at me. Like whoever did it, they actually put a lot of thought into it. Like when the robots go to try to negotiate at the UN, and one of them wears that ridiculous top hat, which of course is from the Japanese surrender on the Missouri.
Yep.
And I'm like, how many people are going to pick up on that? I thought that was great. I love the fact that initially the humans think that it's going to be a cakewalk, and then it's like, oh dear, and how things like just go awry. And I got to tell you, one of the things about anime and other Japanese entertainment is the super violence, which would be disturbing in reality.
You can get away with it on an animated, right?
Because it's almost like a joke. It's almost like a pantomime. It doesn't really give you that sort of Well, there have been some notable exceptions, and one of them was there's a scene where there's a guy operating a mech and it gets ripped open by a robot.
Right.
And this creature with a sort of like rack and pinion arms just sort of reaches down and lifts him out, but his limbs stay behind. And I was like, oh, and he's like, help me. Ah, but it just sort of, oh my God, for some reason that stayed with me. Well, to this day, it's been 25 years. So yeah, that episode particularly has really got some traction.
I think the Animatrix also worked really well because the Matrix itself was obviously inspired by anime. Like, there's no two bones about it.
Yeah, I'm not a big anime fan at all. In fact, I don't even like it. The only anime show that I like is Boondocks because it's hilarious.
It is. But I feel so guilty laughing at it.
Oh no, I don't.
When I watch Boondocks, I'm like, should I be watching this? Even
yes, you should be.
Like Jordan Peele's gonna come around the corner and say, "Shame on you for finding that funny." I'm like,
no, dude. It's like that one guy talking all that good stuff a minute ago, and he gets kicked in the chest. Anyway, so my point is, that's funny. Yeah, I'm gonna laugh.
Well, Tom, I'm pretty sure if you can find one, there's a Matrix pinball game out there somewhere. I've never seen it. I have no knowledge, but I'm sure it's out there.
Ask Chance, you know.
Yeah, true.
if you don't want to Google, just go ask Chance. I'm sure he'll get back to you.
Go to Stellarfest. Go stalk him next week.
Dude, you know the one pinball game that I played like the most? It was at the skater rink. I mean, I go skate, and then sometimes I wouldn't even skate. I just stand on my rollerblades and Star Trek pinball all day because Star Trek. Oh yeah,
right. Nancy Cartwright was the babysitter, and It's a Good Life. I forgot about that. Good call. And Kevin McCarthy was the dad. Yeah,
that I knew.
Hans just blew up.
Actually, Kevin McCarthy was the uncle. The dad.
The uncle. Yeah.
The dad was the father from Cousins, identical cousins.
Yeah.
Help a brother out here.
I just want to keep
the
going.
Patty Duke show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to get there eventually as soon as you sing some more bars. But anyways,
he was in everything too. By the way,
Duke.
Yeah, he was for sure.
He was like, "Yeah, we don't want any more of that singing."
And no singing.
Oh yeah, I love Monty Python's "Search for the Holy Grail." Yes, best line out there. Some call me Tim.
Well, since I probably won't get another turn, I did want to give an honorable mention to Meaning of Life. It was either I was either gonna talk about Monty Python or I was gonna talk about Mel Brooks, and I chose Mel Brooks. So.
Like I said, dude, Monty Python.
I will. In fact, if you watch, most of their shows are a series of movies or a series of vignettes strung together. So any of theirs would really fit. But Meaning of Life is the one that literally falls into the template of Anthology.
They have the best song ever in there.
And now for something completely different. I mean, that's that's more of like a skit.
I use it as my transitional just in my daily conversation. So blah blah blah, and now something completely different.
My son even says that he has no idea what it's from.
Well, that's even funnier. Because blessed are the cheesemakers.
Yeah.
Favorite line. I love that line. I'll get that tattooed on me. Blessed are the cheesemakers. I'll be like, what does that mean? I'll be like,
but hey, Sarah, if you want to talk about the meaning of life, go ahead.
Okay, so the meaning of life is awesome.
It can be your turn.
The only thing I don't like about the meaning of life is when the guy like overeats and blows up. Because I love that. I was just really gross though as a kid. I'm like, I also didn't feel very good at that time. Might have been hungover. Not the point. I'm not as a kid. I wasn't hungover as a kid. I was an adult when I saw this. Excuse me. Let me clarify that. Swear. It's all above board, legal. 21. Swear. Anyways, point is, I might have been. And but that part was a little bit hard to take. But of course, I had to go buy that movie because I saw it. I'm like, no, why don't I own this? What's wrong with me? And in the beginning, like, there's a really good song, right? It's about don't waste things sperm. It's awesome. Anyways, and it says Mormon in it, and like, I grew up as Mormon. I'm like, I'm like 5. Anyway, so I highly recommend the movie. It's really funny.
Every sperm is grand.
Anyways, keep going. That's great.
If the sperm gets wasted, God, quite irate. Yeah.
Right? Anyways, so that's why now, because that song. Look at Dad's out there going, whoa.
I just remember in that segment, like you've got one of the Monty Python crew in drag just doing the dishes, and then all of a sudden a baby just falls out. Like, oh, we got another one.
Yeah, this is really good. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen that one. I've seen all the other ones more than I've seen that one, right? Because some of those ones I can't really watch around my parents. I mean, my dad's dead now, but I'm at her house. So, anyways, so I will be catching up with that again.
And speaking of the Seventh Seal, it has one of my favorite Grim Reapers, The Meaning of Life. The salmon moose.
Did you lose Tim Simmons? Oh, I'm so embarrassed. if I could just say no, Americans. Yeah.
See, I love British comedy. I find it superior to all comedy because everyone is stupid. There's not just one group that's more dumb than others. Because I mean, they're all pretty dumb. Like humans are. Anyways, and I love that, right? I love British comedy because it's like everybody's got some type of lameness, and you're like, what's their gonna? Oh yeah, well that's crazy. Also,
I just love how British humor can be both incredibly lowbrow and sophisticated at the same time.
Yes,
it's like classy but low class.
Oh yeah. It's brilliant.
Like one of my favorite TV shows, just a little tangent, is Blackadder, which you have to be like really knowledgeable of history to get all the jokes and to follow the wit, but like it's such a dumb show, but I love it so much.
Dude, I like Black Book. That was good. I like the IT Crowd. And Mighty Boosh is one of my most favorite
Mighty
ones
Boosh, of course.
Oh, you gotta have Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
So you're a Mighty Boosher. I love you for that.
Of course.
So Geek, we will be talking more about the Crack Fox later.
Yeah, I grew up watching things like Are You Being Served? And what's the one with Mrs. Bucket? Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah. I mean, there's. I mean, I guess it really started with Benny Hill and my parents going in. Why are you watching that? And I'm like, oh, okay. Since they're gone, I'm watching it again, of course, because it's hilarious, right? I mean,
I was about to say yakety sax. Yeah.
Yeah, and to this day, anytime anybody wants to do a bunch of like fast forward motion through doors, I'm all for it. I don't care what I'm watching.
And then there's an homage to that in V for Vendetta with Stephen Fry.
That is true. Yes.
That's a good movie.
It shows how that type of humor would play out if there was a fascist regime in England. But I thought that was again, how can you talk British comedy and not at least mention Benny Hill?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it weren't for him being so ridiculous as a kid, I would have been like, oh no, I don't watch any of that because I don't get it. No, he made it fun. He made you want to come watch it, right? If you didn't get what he was saying, his actions were funny, right? Or the other actions were funny. Or the Speed Vision was great. I love Speed Vision as a kid. I make fun of it to this day. That's great.
And the weird thing was, everyone thinks it was like Jiggle TV, where all the humor was the fact that there were very scantily clad pretty girls, and it's like, no. Well, there was certainly a lot of that, and I was 13 when I started watching it, so it certainly was one of the reasons I turned back in. But like little sketches he did, like there was like one where they didn't have a sound connection, so they were reading off a teleprompter, but one was one question behind.
Yeah.
And every response was like really, really wacky. Because, what's it like being married to an unusual man? Well, I don't get it as often as I like.
Anyway, so we should definitely have a British comedy show of shows.
Oh, absolutely. We can definitely do that. Yeah. I'll add that to the list next to Mel Brooks movies.
Oh, yeah. Don't play anything from BBC because you'll get your channel taken down, or the show. Because whoopsies.
Yeah, I know. The BBC is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Oh, dude. They hit you faster than anything I've ever seen. I mean,
I've been able to fight them and win. It's like the only one of the few wins I've gotten on my channel. I fought them over Triffids.
Oh,
Toho is worse.
Triffids is awesome.
Toho is worse than the BBC, but the BBC are tough. Oh, but before he scrolls over, I got one of my favorite little factoids in The Meaning of Life was the scene where they're fighting the colonial warfare. My leg was bitten off by a tiger, and the natives go, "A tiger in Africa," and they run off. I saw it when I was in high school. I thought it was a reverend. A friend of mine actually explained that to me. What had happened was, as we know as adults, tigers aren't indigenous to Africa. They're from India. When Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote Tarzan, he didn't know this. So throughout the entire first book, he was fighting tigers. And his friends who had actually served in the Royal Military in India said, so he had to literally rewrite he had to cross tiger out, but in panther or leopard.
And apparently belongs here.
And apparently this was like a joke in like British literature that they actually threw that in there as sort of a tip of the hat to the conundrum of Edgar Rice Burroughs, and I had to throw that out there because it's one of my favorite fun facts, and it shows how intelligent they are. Monty Python isn't dim; it's actually very, very, very intelligent.
It's funny because when I watched the Tiger King, anyways, when I watched that, right? And
we all watched it, okay?
Yeah, I know. And then chick, he talked about getting her arm bitten off by the tiger. That movie flashed in my head. I was like, ooh, that did not help. Anyways, that was very interesting, and that was the last time anyways, I got rid of Netflix after that.
I wanted to do my own show called King Tiger, which is about a German World War II tank crew that goes back in time and teams up with a dragon to save a damsel.
On YouTube. That'd be really cool. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it'll be an awesome YouTube reality series.
So, hi, Tracy. I understand groceries are important. You have to feed yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't even had lunch, but like, what's for dinner?
I got meatloaf cooking.
Oh, I'm coming over. But you got right now. You have it?
Well, no, not yet. But it will.
Okay. Listen, I'll just hit everybody's house tonight for dinner. Great.
I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm having a bowl of Cheerios.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I like those too, so I'll be over.
Are they honey nut at least?
They're fine.
I see. I don't like honey nut. I don't like artificial honey.
Like honey nut?
No, I hate artificial honey taste. I can't stand it.
I hate regular honey.
See, I can take regular honey and I could all day long. Ooh, and I have. And my parents have been mad at me for that. But anyways, never mind that.
I guess it's
my
the
favorite.
diabetic in me, but I think honey is one of the most delicious things in the world.
It's a free country to an extent.
Listen, I happen to really love bee barf, okay? So look, it's my favorite.
Bee vomit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean all day long, baby.
So apparently Tracy's having spaghetti, which also sounds wonderful.
See, I'm not a big spaghetti fan, but I'm gonna eat hers. That'll be fine.
I actually had spaghetti last night. So
last night I had Alberto's, so I had fried nachos. It was really good. Carne asada, guacamole.
Nachos on Cape Cod, Alberto's is like an Italian fine dining restaurant. So
this is like my favorite fast food Mexican restaurant out here. Whatever, I ate it, so it's good.
I applied there as a bartender. They never called me back.
And yeah, Tracy, people in the chat are already talking about the Zuni doll trilogy of terror. It's already been brought up a couple times.
Of course it has. She knows that. She's making sure that we know that she knows that we know that she knows.
Pork loin. I always have pork loin in the freezer because it's like my go-to if I run out of ideas and I just need to get something done. I'll just make a pork tenderloin because it's easy.
It's not kosher.
If I had a house of my own, right, mine would be bacon, right? So that would be my go-to for everything.
Again.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what I'm cooking tonight. I could do steak or bacon. I'll do both. And then with vegetables, I haven't got around to my potatoes yet. But anyways, I'll eat the meat. I love meat in my mouth. Yum.
Oh, is me up?
Yes.
Good.
We got way off track.
Yeah. that was fun. I don't want to keep indie in suspenders.
Okay.
So yes, I am going to do what is quite possibly my favorite sci-fi anthology and talk about heavy metal.
Of course, that was the other sci-fi on my list. Obviously,
thank you for not taking it, and I could tell you didn't use it because you wanted me to have it.
Exactly, I was waiting for you to have the opportunity.
Thank you.
He's such a good guy. This is why we love our geek.
I'm probably gonna have to omit some of the stories that I've told on your channel 30 or 40 times by now, like the BOC story. I'm sure we've all heard that one.
We all have memory issues on this channel. It's fine.
I don't remember everything, so continue.
But getting back to the whole framing device element, one of the things that I thought even as a kid, now the Lochnar is a really, really cool entity, and Percy Rodriguez, I could, fall asleep to his voice. He had the coolest voice of all time. But the thing of it is, the Lochnar is only marginally, at best, linked to some of the stories. Ironically, and I should open up with this. We were talking about how some stories are better than others in anthologies. In heavy metal, the comedy, the comic relief stories, I thought were very, very weak. The Hanover Fist, I mean, other than the cool twist ending and the courtroom scene, which is very funny, it doesn't fit the rest of the show. Neither does the whole Lochnar sketch. And what's even worse is So Beautiful, So Dangerous. I remember watching that as a kid and said, what am I even watching? Okay, one robot is trying to seduce a Jewish secretary, and the two aliens are snorting coke. Is this?
I love that.
Listen, okay. I was not one of the aliens in this movie. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Okay, but opinion is divided. I said back then that I thought that the fit wasn't particularly entertaining, and it's amazing how much people disagree with me. They go, "That's the best part of the whole movie." So I mean,
I can see how you think it's like a little tonally awkward. Like it doesn't really match the tone of the other stories in the movie. I get that.
At all.
I don't know, dude. Aliens doing blow. I want to hear more about that.
But the
It's
Lochnar,
Nyborg, man. Stop calling it Coke.
But it's
whatever
the
it is. I want to hear him
is
do
a
more
pendant.
alien blow.
But the Lochnar is a pendant in the alien's necklace.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'll give you
at all. And okay, in Hanover Fist, did he find the Lochnar at an earlier scene and that's what gave him superpowers, or was it just a fluke? He happened to find it right before he goes into his bit.
I was probably midichlorians.
Well, what I found out was initially the Lochnar was something that they decided to go with. They had another idea initially. It was going to be a merry-go-round. And what happened was the girl would get off, and every time she got back on, one of the horses or rides or whatever would have another story. Right. And I'm like, that is such a better framing device than a Lochnar. I guess, to bring Tarna into the mix. It made it more the Terrakians. It just made it more dramatic. But one of the things I got to tell you, as far as the actual stories go, B-17.
That's the standout. Yeah,
that's the standout.
I was going to say you sunk my battleship. So,
but Den of Earth and Tarna. Those are all amazing stories. Den of Earth, I actually, somewhere buried in my collection, I actually have the Heavy Metal magazine that has the very altered version of that story. It's an amazing story either way, but I absolutely loved it then and love it now. But again, I must say, looking objectively, the framing device doesn't quite work, and now we know why. And again, the stories do vary in quality, but it's possibly my favorite science fiction vignette animated movie of all time.
Oh, come on, man. Dan Felder's great. Shut up.
I used to fast forward. I had it on cassette tape. I used to fast forward over that song. It didn't fit that much like some of the vignettes. The entire soundtrack, it's one of the best soundtracks of all time, probably number 3 in my opinion of all time. But that one song is just like even Open Arms by Journey, even that somehow works. But Don Felder, nope.
So 10 out of 10 would not recommend that song. Got it.
Den was always weird to me just because John Candy is a really odd choice for voice actor. And it always takes me out of it. Even today, watching it now, and it's like, here's Den of Earth. He's John Candy.
He's Uncle Buck.
I can see that. No, you're right. I think they did that on purpose.
Yeah,
I think they did that on purpose.
But you remember him, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely remember it. Mm-hmm. And Tarna's like a third of the movie. It takes up a lot of screen time. And it is great. It's iconic. I had a crush on her. And of course, we all did, didn't we? I mean, she showed us things. I love the South Park rip on Tarna. Like the whole episode is just boobs everywhere. Like everything is a boob.
Yes.
And Kenny is just infatuated. He's like, "This is the greatest thing ever."
Well, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. And that's pretty much how I remembered it.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, yeah.
See, boobs.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should all get together and do a reenactment of that. Sarky, you free?
Talk about quotable lines though from Den of Earth. The rival ruler of the planet when the girl and the guy goes, "My, aren't we fierce?" To this day, it's been over 40 years, and when someone gets under my skin, I go, "My, aren't we fierce?"
Right. I think Tracy might be in on the project too. Anyways, get together with Tracy and Starkey and I, and we'll see if we can't reenact your boy. That show, the movie, whatever.
The line I quote from that segment from the Den of Earth is "You die, she dies, everybody dies."
Sounds like a fair deal to me.
Great
it has teeth 6 inches long. Excuse me, 16 inches long. It's a very quotable bit, but yeah, you're right. You have to kind of make yourself listen to John Candy. But of course, that's the premise, and that it was written for geeks. He's a geek back on Earth, but he's dead. But
yeah, basically, like the entire cast of SCTV shows up in Heavy Metal, sometimes more than once. Yeah,
it does. Well, it was a Canadian movie too.
It was, yeah.
Canada, the Canadian entertainment industry has some law. Any Canadian project.
We're talking about Canada, and Damien's not here. Yeah,
Canadian. Oh, Damien.
Damien.
Yes. Damien. Well, that very short-lived sci-fi series, I think it was called Star Lost, the one that was inspired, like Harlan Ellison got the project going, but they butchered it so badly he literally wouldn't do anything with it. He said, "Call me Coriander Bird" in the credits. But it was filmed in Canada, and it was so funny because the Canadian TV Institute, you had to have X number of Canadians in every episode. All the Canadian actors had moved to California to get work in Hollywood. Their agents were calling them frantically, "Get your ass back here. I have a part here in Ottawa." They're looking for any Canadian to be in this show. And that's why Walter Koenig was in it. John Colicos was in it. But they all went back to Canada just like being.
But did you notice that Damien didn't go back to Canada for it? Huh.
He would he even been alive?
Like, I don't know, okay, but it's funnier.
I was 7 when the Star Lost came out, and I think I'm at least 10 years older than Damien.
Like, an alien, okay, because he lives in Florida and he's from Canada, so he has to be an alien. Anyways, and that way
technically,
he lives
yes,
forever.
He is an alien.
Yeah, well, no, I don't mean like that. I just meant from outer space.
I love how the South Park movie, we go to war with Canada, and Canada's winning.
Yeah,
let that be a lesson to you, America. It may not be as easy as it sounds.
Indy, I just want to say, Indy, don't worry. There will be a part 2 because my list is really long, like really, like Harold the Hatter long.
Oh my!
We will do an anthology on anthologies.
Yeah, of course. What was the other thing I was going to say? People were talking about heavy metal and the soundtrack, and the thing that, I love that soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack. I have it. I listen to it all the time. But to call it heavy metal is a misnomer. Heavy metal is based on the comic book, which is, actually, I think somebody said it in the chat. It's actually screaming metal is what it translates to, but they called it heavy metal because heavy metal. And there's actually no heavy metal on that soundtrack. Okay, Journey is not heavy metal.
No, definitely not.
What are you talking about? It's the heaviest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A great theater, a great soundtrack, but no.
Yeah, it's not heavy metal at all.
Sure. Journey, man.
And,
sure.
Let's see. Indy wants to know what the trivia is tonight, Bob. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up.
Well, tonight I'm with our friends Danny and Sister Sarah. This Sister Sarah right here too, by the way. And as you know, when we do an ensemble cast, there will be no trivia tonight, but we will be talking about some of the best of the old made-for-TV movies from the 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyways, I think TV movies are awful in general. Growing up as my generation, everyone was just terrible. Did you see all those Disney ones?
Anyways.
I'm not counting those.
Okay, Danny, every exception has a rule. So, Danny, you got a point there.
That sort medium metal.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, so tonight will be great. I'll be on the button, so everybody will be type in chat and throw it up. And if the people on panel who can read don't read it, it's not my fault. Blame them. But I threw it up. The comments. I didn't throw it up. Food, Kate. That's not what I mean.
As for me, I've got a remaster of an old video from Universal, of course. It came from outer space. That's going to drop in like half an hour. But the real prize is next week. I have a video dropping on the Quatermass Experiment, which is a video I've been meaning to make for 5 years.
All right.
This is a movie that I don't think gets nearly enough recognition for being as important as it is.
I've never heard of it, so that'll be cool.
Exactly my point.
I've heard of it.
I know you have.
And I have some notes, but
we can talk about it later after my video drops.
Exactly. Must suppress wise ass.
Must you?
And yes, Indy, the autocorrect, when I was writing my script, man, it was pissing me off. Because I was pissing it off, kept typing experiment that way. And it's like, no!
Wow, see,
and yes, Carowin, it is on my Patreon. I already put it on my Patreon, so you can go see it there. Or if you're a channel member, you can see it right now on YouTube.
By the way, Tug,
I'm not back yet. I'll be back soon.
While we're on the subject, I can watch your stuff on the Patreon, but for some reason it doesn't let me comment. I've tried different things, doesn't work. But I do watch your stuff straight away. I just can't tell you.
You talk about it, so I know you do.
Okay.
No, he's faking it. You know he's faking it. He just knows you, Tug, and he's reading your mind. Really, what are you doing?
One can't fake product knowledge. That's the first thing I learned.
Well, no, he's got some of that alien blow. It helps his mind because he's human.
Plutonium Nyborg.
Whatever. Alien blow. He's got some. I send you my address after the show.
Oh, that reminds me, Thrash, before you go, because I know you usually have to drop immediately. Just email me your physical address. I wanted to send you something.
Ooh, he's gonna send you. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that loud in this show. Stay tuned for another day for me to say that words.
Ixnay on the Audinay, you know?
Right? Ooh. Stay tuned for next week. I might.
Big Brother is watching us.
But and also, as I said before,
my brother's in here. Oh
no. We will be doing anthologies again next week, so look forward to that. I don't know who'll be on the panel yet. We'll figure that out.
I'm guessing it'll probably be people.
Yeah, Damien will probably be there. Thrash can always come back if he wants.
Hans, everybody loves him. I mean,
you know, I've got my rotating crew, so you know, you know them. You'll see them.
Fresh. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so until then, you know, the usual stuff. Never be ashamed of what you love and all that.
And I'll see you guys tonight.
Thank you and good night.